All right, in this video, we are going to finish the things that we did not get to in class. This is the same PowerPoint that we were working on in the last class. It's just the slides that we skipped. So there was one part of multiplication that we did not get to, and that was multiplying by powers of 10. So if you think about multiplying by powers of 10, some people will say, let's do 8 times 10. Oh, that's easy. All you have to do is add a 0. Right? Which is 80. Okay, so far so good. And in fact, for anything you're going to do in elementary school, that technique will work. Always just add a 0. Add a 0 always works. But then as your students move forward, we get to things like decimals. 7.8 times 10. Let's just add a 0 like our teacher told us to before. Did it work? Not this time. So the idea of just adding a 0 is very short-sighted. It's helpful for your students when they're in 3rd grade and 4th grade, but then as they move forward, as you can see, it starts causing some problems. So a better thing to do is focus on place value. So instead of saying just add a 0, think about the effect that adding a 0 has to a whole number. So if I have 8 and I put a 0 behind the 8, what I have really done is I have shifted the 8 into a different place value. It used to be in the ones place, and now it's in the tens place. So if I have 23 times 10, I can use that same logic. So let's look at what that looks like. So here I have the number 23, and I'm going to multiply by 10. So the answer that I get is 230, which looks like I'm just adding a 0, but think about what that 0 is doing. I'm taking each of my 3 unit cubes, which were in the ones place, and I'm multiplying each of those by 10. So that one, if I have 10 of those together, so instead of just having one, I have one group of 10, well, that becomes a rod. And the same thing for this one, and the same thing for this one. So instead of having 3 tinies, I end up having 3 rods. Well, what's the value of 3 rods? Well, they've moved from the ones place now to the tens place, so that 3 that I had here in the ones place has moved over to the tens place. The same idea is going to work with the rods. So if I take this rod that's in the tens place and I multiply it by 10, well, that means I have 10 groups of rods, and 10 rods makes a flat. And the same thing is true with this one. So instead of having 2 rods, I end up with 2 flats. And you can see my 2 moved from the tens place to the hundreds place. So think about the fact that when you multiply by 10, you are moving a place value over. Instead of being in the ones place, you're in the tens place. In the tens place, you would move to the hundreds place. If you were in the hundreds place, you would move to the thousands place. Anywhere you are, you're going to move over a place value. So let's see what happens when I multiply, because this says 10 to the n power. So what if I multiply by 10 squared? All right, well, we know that 10 squared is 10 times 10. All right, well, we just said if you multiply by 10, you're going to shift over a place value. So that 8 times 10, the 8 is going to move from the ones place into the tens place. Well, now I'm just multiplying by 10 again. So I'm going to shift my 8 now from the tens place over to the hundreds place. And I have this. So again, fourth grade teachers, you might be tempted to say when you multiply by 100, just add 2 zeros. But really, when you multiply by 100, 100 is the same thing as 10 times 10. And so you're shifting over that place value twice, once for each 10. So if I multiply 8 times 10 to the 5th, even without doing this, I know I'm going to shift my 8 over 5 place values, and then I'll fill in the missing spots with zeros as placeholders. But what I'm focusing on with my students is that I'm shifting the place value, not that I'm adding a 0. The adding a 0 is a consequence of shifting the place value, not the cause of shifting the place value. Okay, so now let's go back into division. So in class, we did the set model, the partition model, where I say, okay, if I have a certain number of blocks and I want to separate them into groups, how many blocks will go in each group? right? That's the set or the partition model, and that's what you guys are going to do in your videos. So you remember we had like 6, and I'm just going to make up a number, 537. So we put out 537 blocks, and then we said, okay, how many can I split the 100s? How many 100s will go in each of my 6 groups? And then we had to split them up and make 10s, and how many of those will go in each of the groups? And we ended up with 6 groups, each of which had an identical number of blocks in it. So that was the partition model that we were working on. Tonight, I want to work on the repeated subtraction model. So this is a different way of looking at long division. Okay, so think about inverse operations for just a second. We have said that multiplication and division are inverse operations. We have said that addition and subtraction are inverse operations. So then it makes sense that if multiplication can be modeled by repeated addition, division ought to be modeled by repeated subtraction, because multiplication and division are inverses, adding and subtracting are inverses, so we ought to have that same sort of relationship. So that's what we're going to look at here. We're going to focus on division as repeated subtraction. Okay, so let's suppose we had this, 6 dividing into 726. So when we did this with the blocks, we built 7 100s, 2 rods, and 6 tinies. 7 flats, 2 rods, 6 tinies, and we looked at each place value separately. So I had something to represent 700, something to represent 20, and then something to represent 6. So when I do this one, I want to think of the number 726 as one number. I don't want to split it into its place values. It's almost as if I had a huge pile of 726 tinies, and I am going to repeatedly subtract 6 until I cannot subtract 6 anymore. Well, if I have 726 tinies, that would take a really long time, right? So we're going to look at a way of doing this that uses the idea of place value, but not splitting the 726 up. So I'm going to focus on the hundreds place first. Well, 6 times 100. Okay, we just said if you're multiplying 6 times 100, you're going to shift that place value 2 times. So 6 times 100 would be 600. Can I subtract 600 from 726 and stay positive? Sure. So I am going to put up on top here 100. So I'm going to multiply just like in the standard algorithm, 100 times 6, 600, and then I'm going to subtract, and I have 126 remaining. Okay, so now if you think about this, it's as if we had 726 tinies, and then I came in and I scooped up 600 of them and took them away, and now I have 126 tinies remaining. Okay, so can I do 100 again? Well, no, 600 is bigger than 126. I do not have enough tinies to scoop away 600 again. So now let's go over to the tens place. So if you have a student who is not very good at their multiplication tables or not very good at place value, this is something that can really help because it eliminates a lot of problems. So 6 times 10, that would be shifting everything one place value over, and I would get 60. Can I subtract 60? Sure. So I'm going to put 10 right there. 10 times 6 is 60, and I'm going to subtract and get 66. Okay, well, do I have enough little tinies that I can scoop up 60 more? Sure. So let's just do 10 again. 10 times 6 is 60, and I'm left with 6. Okay, so can I scoop up 60 more? No. So 6 times 1 is 6. Can I scoop up 6? Yes. So I'm going to put a 6. 1 times 6 is 6. And I subtract, and I get a 0. Okay, so I've scooped up all my little tinies. I don't have any left. So to find the answer when you're doing repeated subtraction, the answer is here. I need to add up all those numbers, and then that's going to be the answer to my division problem. So 100 plus 10 plus 10 plus 1 is going to end up being 121. So 726 divided by 6 is 121. So this eliminates some problems that your students might run into. Sometimes when we have a 0 in a division problem, the students get confused. They're not sure maybe they should end the problem now because they're at a 0. Should I continue dividing or am I done? Sometimes students get the wrong number and they multiply incorrectly or they get too small of a number. So let me illustrate that so you can see what I'm talking about. So let's suppose I was doing a division problem. And let's do, we'll just do 726 again. So 6 goes into 7 one time. 6 goes into 12. So here I'm going to accidentally make a mistake. I'm going to say 6 goes into 12 one time. And I have 66. Oh dear. 6 goes into 66 11 times. I don't know what to do with my 11. And the problem is not the 11. The problem is that this number was too small to start with. Well, do you see that that's not even an issue here? Because you can use whatever number you want to. You can do 100 repeatedly. You can do 10 repeatedly until you run out of blocks. So this eliminates a great deal of problems that your students might have. And again, it's good mathematics. There's a lot of good things going on there. Don't feel like this is cop out for your students. It is a way to help them until they're better dividers. Okay, let's do this one. 4 into 375. So 375 divided by 4. Okay, so let's do the same kind of thing. Let's start looking at this as 375 tinies in a great big pile. Can I do 100? Well, 100 times 4, scoot my place value over twice. That's going to be 400. Do I have enough tinies that I can come scoop out 400 of them? No. Okay, so I can't do 100. So let's do 10. Well, 10 times 4 is 40. 335. Okay, I scooped out 40. Do I have enough to scoop out 40 more? Well, yeah, I'm going to look at this and I'm going to think, oh my goodness, I can subtract 40 a bunch of times. Ooh, let's do a bigger number. Let's do 20. So 4 times 20 is 80. And I'm going to model my good subtraction skills here. 255. Well, I can do 20 again, but still 80 is kind of small. Maybe let's try 40. So 40 times 4, that's 160. And let's practice our good subtraction skills. And I get 95. Okay, so now 40 is going to be too big, but I can go back and do 20 again. I'm going to get 80. So I've got 15. So now 20 is too big, 10 is too big. All right, I'm going to go up here with my 15 because I'm out of space. How about 3? 3 times 4 is 12, and I have 3 left over. And I can't scoop out 4 more because I only have 3 there. Okay, so let's write the answer to this one. So here's what I have. Let's add all those up. And 10 and 20 makes 30, and 30 and 40 is 70, and 70 and 20 is 90. 93, remainder 3. Okay, now remember the way we said to check this in class? You'll take the quotient that you got and multiply by the number you're dividing by. So 4 times 3 is 12. Carry your 1. 4 times 9 is 36, plus 1 is 37. 372 is not what I started with. Remember your remainder. You got to add your remainder. And so I get 375, which is what I started with. So that is the correct answer. So you notice that within my division algorithm here, I was able to subtract whatever size group I felt comfortable with. If a student is very good at their multiplication tables, then they're going to maybe see that they can do 90 right off. And that student is probably ready to shift over to the standard algorithm. But a student who's maybe a little bit weaker in their division skills, maybe they can just do 20 repeatedly until they get to the one that they need. They can subtract away however many groups they want to as long as what they're multiplying is mathematically correct and they have enough blocks to scoop out that many.